Will Easton Cowan make the Maple Leafs roster this year? This is something that I've been thinking about for a little while. And there are some positives, negatives, and some general thoughts I wanted to give on this. Now, in one regard, Easton Cowan is young, right? He is only 19, I believe, only in his draft. He was just finished his draft plus 1 year. And in that regard, you might say, well, he's a little bit inexperienced. Maybe he has to go back to junior. On the other hand, if you do believe that Easton Cowan is a blue chip prospect, and after his draft plus 1 year, I personally do, is it so outrageous that Easton Cowan does make the Leafs this year? I don't think so. There is always going to be some kind of risk with bringing a player like this in, because you never know if it's going to stunt his growth or whatnot. Now, sometimes when a player is only a one-way player, a la Nick Robertson or a player like that, it makes me a little bit worried bringing them into the National Hockey League, because you want them to season parts of their game. The one thing that makes me positive on whether Easton Cowan is going to make the Leafs, which it means I believe that he can, is the fact that Easton Cowan is actually a very, very, very good penalty killer. Like, he's the type of player that can play first, second, or third, and maybe even fourth line on an NHL roster. So you look at it and think to yourself, well, if he can play up your roster or down your roster and penalty kill, even if he's not scoring 70 points, he can be useful. When you have a player like a Nick Robertson, for example, if he's not scoring, he's pretty much useless. This is why I do think it is possible that Easton Cowan makes the Leafs roster. Now, the Leafs have signed Alex Nylander, they might be signing another left winger, and I'm kind of wondering as to why they are doing it. I don't believe that Easton Cowan is eligible for the American Hockey League, so they kind of he either needs to make the National Hockey League or not. So I'm kind of confused. Do they want to... I mean, it sounds like they probably want to give young guys a chance, which does make sense. They have a really, really good prospect there, so you don't necessarily want to ruin this kid. So what is their plan here? Like, let's say they sign a guy like a Max Pacioretty. And I've been thinking about this a little while. Like, he would probably play second, third line tweener on the left side. They already have Bobby McMahon and Matthew Nyes, and I'm thinking, okay, so then where does Easton Cowan fit in here? Like, he'll probably get a 9-game audition, I would say, but you would have to figure that he would fit in on probably the third line. Like, that makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe if Domi could play on that line, or you have Camp and Easton Cowan play on that line together, get his feet wet. Maybe he can play 13 to 15 minutes a night, play some penalty kills, second power play. You would be able to find time for him, and I do think that he is ready right now because of that. Like, I don't think it's that outrageous to say he absolutely can make the NHL. But it just confuses me as to why the Leafs are signing other left wingers. Now, I suppose they do want depth, which is pretty reasonable, but I don't know. I would rather just give it to a younger guy for the opportunity. Now, when Easton Cowan was selected, he was a very big surprise, and from me too. I was absolutely shocked when the Leafs picked him. I thought they were going to pick somebody with a higher name regard. I honestly thought the Leafs completely threw away that pick. I didn't even know who the hell this kid was. I'd never even heard of him. Usually I try to educate myself to the best of my abilities on the first 3 rounds of the draft heading into the draft, but I'm no draft expert necessarily. He was below a point per game, and it looks like the Leafs have absolutely hit on this pick and returned their sins of not drafting Travis Konecny as they should have drafted, and they traded that pick. But this looks like an absolute hit of a pick. He has absolutely killed the OHL, and they have a hell of a player there, in my opinion. And it's about time, because the Leafs desperately need a draft pick to work out, and a young, cheap player that can actually really, really play higher up your lineup. And they really haven't gotten that. I mean, they have Timothy Liljegren, who, yes, is a defenseman, but he can't really play that high up your lineup. Maybe he's more of a bottom pair. Yes, I know maybe he can play higher up this season, but he hasn't yet. They really haven't had that player, even in Nick Robertson, where you figure, okay, no, he's going to be their 65-point guy that they drafted in the second round. Like, they're going to hit on a later round pick, and the kid's going to turn into a star or something like that. Now, Nick Robertson has dealt with injuries, so it's not necessarily fair to completely criticize him, but you understand what I'm saying. Nick Robertson has not gotten to where we thought he was going to be. I genuinely thought he was going to be the Leafs DeBrincat. Like, I remember when the Chicago Blackhawks drafted Alex DeBrincat, and I was like, they got a stud there. I was like, they got a real stud there. And this is now the Leafs' time. Easton Cowan is a player, right? And the most exciting thing about Easton Cowan isn't just that he's a player, it's that he's a player that can play up and down your lineup. He's a player that can penalty kill, power play, won't look like a complete train wreck in his own zone, can probably be scrappy on the wall. Like, I don't expect him to always win battles on the wall. Smaller players do tend to struggle with that. He can skate. He can really score on the penalty kill as well. Like, he's a big time threat to score on the penalty kill. He was an unbelievable penalty killer for the London Knights. I remember watching him in the playoffs with the Generals versus the London Knights, and he was stellar. Let me tell you, he was excellent. A threat every time that he was out there. Every time he was on the penalty kill, you could see that he was absolute dynamite. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Leafs actually got themselves a blue chip prospect outside of the top 5, in my opinion. But I'm always going to say this, that I really hope his opportunity doesn't get hindered by older guys that shouldn't be playing that high up. Like, it really is the Leafs' time to start giving younger players an opportunity. And the Leafs are kind of turning into a little bit of an older team, which is kind of making me a little nervous personally. Like, I would prefer the Leafs to be surrounded with younger-ish players, and that they can be trained by their core of Marner, Nylander, and Matthews. That makes a lot more sense to me. So why don't you guys tell me what you think? If you could like, subscribe, tell me why I'm wrong, tell me why I'm right. I really do appreciate you guys watching my videos. Thanks, and have a great day.